Hey, it's Cam, and you're watching Fame Magazine.
Hey everybody, this is Fame Magazine. My name is Savannah Jewel, and today we're sitting down and chatting with Cam Blake. Cam, how are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. How you doing, Sveta?
Cool. I'm doing fantastic. It's a beautiful day here. I'm really excited to chat with you. I'm excited to meet with you today because I know we're talking about your new project, Satisfaction of Sameness. But before we get into that, I want to get into who you are and where you started. So, floor is yours. Take us through where you started, how you broke into the industry, where you are now.
Yeah. So I'm from Vancouver, BC, and I started making music when I was probably the first song I wrote was when I was 8 years old. My dad was super into music and was like in bands and stuff and like did production and everything in like the early 2000s and the 90s. And so like music was always a big part of like my childhood and stuff like that. So I got into it really early. And then I started off first making um like rap music and like all sorts of like kind of ambient tracks and stuff like that. And then eventually I kind of like found my footing and started making indie music when I was like 19, 20.
Hmm.
And then during like COVID and during the lockdown, I put out my first album. Um, that was more of like an indie rock album. And then slowly I've been working on kind of phasing into like this new album, which is like a bit more electronic, a bit more like industrial, a little bit more of a serious take than the last record.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a bit about me.
Cool. Through all of that, what are some of your favorite projects that you've done? Would you include like that first indie album like a favorite or maybe other
It was
things?
definitely, yeah, it was a really it was my debut album, so it was like a big moment for me. Like getting like the vinyls made and stuff like that was really cool. Like holding like a physical copy
Yeah.
of a record that you make is like a really cool experience, you
Yeah,
know?
I'm sure.
Um, yeah, and I don't. There's something about vinyl in general too. Just like
Hmm.
I'm getting the new record made on vinyl too. Um,
Cool.
and yeah, it was a really big moment just because it was the first thing that I had like really saw fully through from like beginning to end.
Hmm.
Um, and something that I was like really proud about that I was
Yeah.
able to like collaborate with people on.
Hmm.
And yeah, I mean I've had lots of other like side project kind of stuff and like other bands that I've been in that have put out projects and albums, but I think that was probably the most significant one to me so
Very
far.
cool. Cool. I'm excited for you about the vinyl because I'm a big vinyl person. I love a
Yeah.
vinyl. So I'd rather have that than like the experience is different than like listening to it on your phone or listening to
Hmm.
it through like a CD or whatever. If people still do that, I don't know if people still listen through CDs, but
I would listen to CDs. I have a like beater Honda Civic,
mm,
um, and like the I can only use my phone if I use like the FM transmitter thing. I don't know if you've
yeah.
seen those where you like yeah. So the CD sounds so much better. So I always go to like a thrift store, like like Goodwill or something, and try to find like a bunch of like $2 CDs.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a good idea.
Yeah,
I have to do that. I'm
yeah,
trying to be better on like collecting physical things because we're
yeah.
such a digital world right now.
Hmm.
So that's a great idea. You gave me a thing to do. So
It's so
fast forward.
satisfying. Like you hop in your car and you like
Yeah.
open like I have a bunch of those like CD like cases or whatever where you flip through all of them.
Yes.
You know?
I know exactly
Yeah,
what you're
it's
talking
lit.
about. Super fun.
Yeah.
Fast forward to your album coming out, Satisfaction of Sameness. Um, from what I gathered, it seems to explore like the notion of internal conflict, pressures of conformity. So, what inspired you to touch on these themes, and how do you like to express them through your music?
Mm. Well, I think that one of the biggest uh like I think one of the biggest things that was affecting me while I was writing it. So like I did most of the writing in 2021, most of like the recording and writing. Um, and I think being like 21 years old at the time and really feeling like the pressure of like, you know, beginning the rest of your life kind of thing, like wanting to like start like a career and settle down and all those things are kind of in like implanted in your head at that age. And it's a very like daunting thing because um especially in BC because like the housing market is like destroyed right now.
Oh,
Um Like we like the I think like the average home in my hometown right now is probably like over $1 million.
Oh my God.
Um, yeah, like it's crazy. Like no
Yeah.
one can afford housing at all here. Um, so it's a very like um it's a tough thing to battle with because you're kind of like, where am I gonna like, how am I gonna buy a house or how am I gonna like,
Hmm.
live? And so you're kind of like pressured to have like a very blue collar kind of job or have something that's, very steady and kind of gets you through, the beginning stages of your life.
Hmm.
And I think I was dealing with that a lot at the time and was feeling like, well, I just got to get like a blue collar job and just like, get a down payment on a house or something.
Hmm.
Um, and I think that was like a big pressure for me at the time. Um, and yeah, so I was just dealing with a lot of struggle of like, facing um, you know, reality,
Right.
you know.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. So you tried to like pour those kinds of struggles into your music as like, do you use it as like a, what is the word? Like a, not coping, but like a way to express yourself?
Yeah, I think like sometimes it's like um if there's just something like on my mind a lot, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
It's kind of hard not to write about it just because it's so like fresh, you know? Um and I think a lot of the time too, um like a lot of my older music was kind of more like heartbreak and like love song kind of vibe. Um but I think with the new album, I kind of wanted to be like tap into like a part of my brain that was a little bit more serious,
Yeah.
and tackle things that I was like really dealing with on like a more grand scale,
Hmm.
and less like a personal thing.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, right. Okay. So, like getting a little deeper into the title
Hmm.
track of the album, from my understanding, also, like I feel like it revolves around like a fictional conversation with someone in power,
Hmm.
maybe, where you're
Yeah.
pressured into choosing like a satisfactory life versus like a meaningful one. Can you
Hmm.
elaborate on the significance of like the dialogue and how it reflects maybe on like broader societal issues for people that are listening to it?
Yeah. So yeah, the concept of that song was so like it's kind of, yeah, it's like a kind of fictional conversation between two people,
Mhm.
where it's almost like a internal dialogue kind of thing. Like the person is very much like in your head, kind of like that voice telling you to like, just do kind of like take the easy way out, if that makes
Yeah.
sense,
Mhm.
especially for a creative type where you're like, um, you don't really see like a monetary value in like the things that you do a lot of the time.
Mhm.
Um, and so like the song is kind of just like it's pretty sarcastic in a lot of ways, because it's like the ending bit is like um, you know, like the ending bit, like the chorus, I guess you'd call it, is like I want to live for the satisfaction of sameness. I want what everyone has.
Mhm.
It's kind of it's it's like a joke, like I'm not actually being serious. Like um it's just kind of like
Like the
me,
irony.
yeah, the irony of it, exactly.
Okay.
And um and that's kind of what the whole song is about, is um just kind of battling that thought.
I was
Yeah.
listening to older projects of yours, and I feel like your genre kind of shifted. Was
Hmm.
that was that like intentional? Is that something that is reflected through like the entire album, or is it just like that track that like touches on kind of like I don't know if electronic is the word that I'm gonna use, but kind of like house music-y?
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely electronic. It's definitely like I would say it has like maybe like hyper pop or like industrial elements as well.
Hmm.
Definitely a bit of house as well. I I think the that kind of music has always been like something that I've wanted to create, but wasn't necessarily like in the right state to be able to make it.
Yeah.
And then when I was 21, I was living at my buddy's house, and so I didn't have access to like my studio the same way that I usually did because I moved all of my stuff over there.
Yeah.
And so creating electronic music was a lot easier,
Mhm.
um, because I was kind of like, I was like, well, I don't have my kit, I don't have like all my mics and everything. So if I get home from work and I just want to like make something, I was usually just using like electronic sounds instead of like more natural tones and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Um, and so that was, yeah, that was kind of, and it was always stuff that I wanted to make, as what I said. Like it was always like I've always loved listening to that kind of music. And I just kind of like decided, oh, actually I can do this, you know. So
Yeah. That's
and then I
awesome.
did. Yeah.
What a fun shift. I think that's so fun as like an artist, you can choose like what genre you want to touch on, and it could be all of them at some point in your career if you feel like it. So that's cool.
Hmm.
That like
Hmm.
freeness of that. Your previously like sold out show at the Camaraderie, is that how you pronounce it? Camaraderie Ballroom?
Oh, it was. Oh no, sorry. There's the Commodore.
Commodore.
Um,
I couldn't, I was like, how do
yeah.
you pronounce this word?
No,
Commodore.
that's
Okay.
all good. That's all
Camaraderie?
good.
Commodore. Okay. Come on.
Yeah.
Commodore Ballroom. That was
It's
a
kind of,
pretty
yeah,
big event.
it's spelled a little weird because like, yeah, it's DRE at the end or whatever.
Yeah. It's okay. I
Yeah.
should have Googled it, but I didn't know
No,
like how to
it's all
Google like
good.
someone saying the name, so it's fine.
Yeah. No,
Um,
that's all good. Yeah, that was like a, so my buddy Tim, he runs an indie music label called Kingfisher Blues,
mhm.
and every year they put on a Christmas show like in like mid-December, um that raises money for 1-800 Suicide and BC Crisis Center.
Oh, nice.
And every year they get like one of Vancouver's biggest bands. They're called Peach Pit. He gets Peach Pit to like headline it. So and then he gets like a bunch of like artists that are like associated or on the label to like basically open for them.
Mhm.
And so there's like sometimes like 10, like 15 bands that like open up for Peach Pit, and they all play like 15-20 minute sets.
Mhm.
And yeah, that was one of the craziest shows I've ever played because they did back to back nights, like, or back to back shows. They did a day show and a night show,
Mhm.
and they were both sold out shows. So they got like, yeah, there's probably over 20 bands that played that in the entire day.
Mhm.
Um, and it's almost like it's like almost like a little festival. It's really cool.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, there was like 1,200 people there. It was amazing. It was super
Yeah.
fun.
Did that experience affect like the influence of creating the new album at all?
No, not necessarily. It didn't necessarily affect the creating of it, but it definitely affected the way that we perform it and the way that like I think the biggest thing that it did for me was it kind of like it solidified the idea of like being a performer and being like a creative as like something that I should be doing.
Mm.
Just because the show went really, really well. And there's a live video on my YouTube if you want to go check it out. Um, and the experience was just like so like life changing just in the fact that I was able to like actually pull up and like do it, you
Mhm.
know.
Yeah.
And like yeah, that it just felt like amazing. It was like as soon as I did it I was like, how can I do that again? You
Yeah.
know.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Um, I am a big festival person. I love a concert. And
Hmm.
like I obviously have never been on the stage POV, but that's a lie. I was in middle school, but not like now.
Yeah, yeah.
Stage POV. So I can imagine like the effects it has on you as an artist to be able to perform in front of a live audience and like especially with like other super talented people. That's
Hmm.
awesome. I can imagine the experience. But so back to the album. So the singles from your album, the Gravity, Red Tape, and another Desperate World Turned to Nothingness, right? Did I get that right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So each each of them seem to tackle like different aspects of human condition. That's basically what I got from like when I was doing my homework, right? So how do these songs fit into like the broader narrative of satisfaction of sameness?
Yeah, so Gravity I thought I wanted to put out first. It's one of the like first like singles or whatever, first like tracks on the album.
Hmm.
Um and I thought that it would kind of be like a good transition piece too, between like, you know, kind of indie rock into like a more electronic kind of like serious tone.
Hmm.
And uh yeah, Gravity is a very um it's just like a pop song, you know. It's a pretty like straight ahead pop song, I feel like. But it definitely talks about um you know, even within like a really positive state, or like even in like within a day that you feel you know, good about where you are in life and those types of things, there's still like a gnawing feeling kind of telling you that there's, you know, external issues that you're not necessarily dealing with, or
Yeah.
you know, there's always going to be something that's going to be bothering you.
Mhm.
And so it's like kind of like a state of feeling like, you know, you're never actually like fully away from your problems, you know. um and then that kind of opens it up to the second single, Red Tape, which is kind of about like wanting to make meaningful change but not knowing what path to take to be able to make those changes, and like at an individual level too, um like how difficult it can be to like feel like you're actually doing anything positive for society, you
Yeah.
know. And and then Another Desperate World Turned to Nothingness is just super bleak, and that's kind of one of the songs on the record near the end that that plays into like the concept of the album, where like I wanted to kind of like create a world where you're kind of like living within like a like internal dialogue, or like kind of conflicting views within like a day, like all of the, you know, the ways that your mind can kind of like bounce between different topics and stuff like that.
Yeah.
um and so like Another Desperate World is kind of like the end of the rabbit hole, where you're um you know, your mind has led you to a place that you don't necessarily want to be.
Mhm.
And I think that I was writing that song during yeah, 2021, during like that really bad wildfire season. So it was like, you know, seeing your province like lit on fire is pretty scary, and
Mhm.
it kind of makes you start to think about, you know, and really like you get really hit with like a dose of reality, and like, you know, the real issue of like global warming and like climate change and stuff. So
Yeah.
um yeah, that's kind of what that song's about. Um yeah, we talked about the next single after that as well. So yeah.
Nice. I love a story in an album.
Hmm.
When people tell a story and like take you along through it whenever like anybody's writing music, I think that's really special.
Yeah.
Um, and with the cover art of the album, I would love to talk more about that and how it correlates with like the theme of the track, because it's like you times 10, right? Or something like
Hmm.
that. Can you tell us more about
Yeah.
the inspiration behind it?
Yeah, so I wanted the like that concept that I was talking about, how it's kind of like the internal dialogue throughout like the day.
Hmm.
Those people are like the versions of me that are kind of scattered throughout that kind of like void,
Hmm.
are almost like the different like states, or like yeah, like the different like states of emotion that you are like within the day. Like they're all kind of like
Yeah.
slightly different, like you know, versions of me that are all kind of like mingling within this kind of like the void is almost like my mind, you know.
Hmm.
And that was kind of like the vibe that I was going for. And then the visuals and stuff like that, those are all kind of within that same world, um, like they're all kind of tying into like the different, like almost like, because like I feel um, the way that so many people think and the way that I think is like I feel like throughout the day, like I'm battling like so many different types of like thought processes and stuff like that. Like I'm always going down like random like little holes, you know.
Yeah.
And I
Same.
wanted to kind of like tap into that a little bit and be like talk about specifically all those thoughts that I'm having, you know, and kind of like dig deeper into them. And
Yeah.
so I wanted the album to kind of represent that.